This thing on? Okay, good. It's on. All right. So this is the first episode of Hands Island National Radio. We will give a shout out. The sponsors have carried over. Uh, so we like to thank our sponsors: Sweetgrass Bison, sweetgrassbison.ca. Cody does premium rangeland, grass-fed bison, no growth hormones, no antibiotics. The animals never see the needle. So definitely check it out. Apparently, you can buy it at Urban Grocers in Lethbridge. He also sells to a lot of gyms in Calgary, I guess. So because they do the food thing. So check out the sponsorship ad at the end of the podcast, and our other gold sponsor, Hot Pepper Communications, hotpepper.ca. Kim Seaver does copy editing, social media management, and other services too. He has different packages and modules that you can buy from him. So hotpepper.ca, and you can check out his ad at the end of the podcast. All right. So one of the changes is, since we have been annexed by Hands Island National Radio, is reading of the Hands Island National Radio News. And so today in the news, the commander of the Royal Hands Island Navy has announced that the fleet is slowly disintegrating, as it does every time this time of year during the spring. Of course, Hands Island's Navy is composed entirely of ice. So with summer on the horizon, our island nation will once again be subject to the piracy and looting of our neighbor nations. Plans are underway for a design competition for next year's Royal Hands Island Navy vessels. Of course, this competition is open to all people who wish to participate, though will incorporate the artistic works of Hands Island Elementary School's Grade 3 class. It is announced from the Hands Island royal family that the Crown Princess is expecting again. The palace has informed Hands Island National Radio that she is going to have octuplets. In other news, a polar bear has successfully graduated from Southern Hands Island Medical School. The 15-foot bear has indicated that he would like to begin a practice in dermatology. When asked about his future aspirations in the medical community, the polar bear had only this to say. Our reporter was then ripped to shreds by the polar bear because he felt that the wrong questions were being asked. And that's it for Hands Island National Radio News. And with our guest today, we have Ryan Heavyhead. Welcome back to the podcast, Ryan.
Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah.
How do you spell hands? Hands? Is it two A's or is it just
no,
one A?
H-A-N-S.
Okay, like
So,
Han Solo.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah. He's actually on the flag of Hands Island.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay. I should have figured.
What'd you think of our newscast there, Ryan?
Oh, it was excellent. Yeah, that was good. It's good to know what's happening out there.
You know, it's important. That poor Hands Island, we so jostled about so often, between Canada and Norway and their, imperialistic, their ways of doing things.
It's the politics, man. I had to turn off my phone, because I don't want to get interrupted. But the most likely interruption we would have is the NDP party is calling me. They're calling me every day, and I keep avoiding. I keep trying. I told them even, don't call me.
Yeah.
Or call my wife, because I'm not really. The first time they called, they went on and on about who I should vote for and why and stuff. And I just told them, it's like, you're speaking a foreign language to me, because that's just not my language. I'm totally non-political.
Oh, okay,
right?
okay, yeah.
And well, of course everybody's political, but
but just in that way. Yeah,
that's right. In that way. So I told, call my wife.
Yeah.
So, but then they keep calling me anyway. They're really adamant. I can't wait till the 5th is done, because that's when the voting is done.
Yeah. Well, we shouldn't get any more robocalls after. So today is Saturday the 2nd.
Yeah.
So it should be Monday, actually. Monday the 4th. There should be no robocalls, because I think they go into a 24-hour blackout window.
Oh, okay.
And
I just got a couple more days to avoid these guys.
Yeah, just check for the 1-800 numbers on your phone there.
That's right.
Just screen it out. It's funny because I haven't had an NDP call, but I've had Wild Rose, I've had Liberal, and I had Jim Prentice is on the phone every 10 minutes.
Oh yeah.
And I'm actually getting calls for Bev, my roommate, on my cell phone. So they have somehow associated Bev with my phone. And I have no idea why. I have no idea how that happened. I have no idea why it happened. But it's crazy. Like, I'm getting 5-6 calls a day. In Vegas one day, I got 8 calls in a row.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Then, because they know you. That's what you're about too. You get into the politics.
Mm-hmm.
Me, I don't, but the NDP has me, figured that I'm going to be one of their guys, right?
Interesting.
I'm going to be one of their guys. They have to get my vote.
Have you ever contacted anybody in the NDP before?
No, I don't.
Somebody sold your
I don't get into it. I don't vote for. I usually don't vote unless there's somebody really outlandish.
Yeah.
Going for office or what have you. Somebody that I know is going to make a change, and while they're in there, is probably going to get indicted for something. If it's. It's like my brother-in-law Marty, when he was running for city council. Of course, I voted for him because he's crazy. And then I think one time I remember voting for Ross Perot for U.S. president.
Mm-hmm. That's right, because you're dual, right?
I am. I grew up in the States, so I was in Boston going to school when Ross Perot was running for president. I was like, this guy is nuts. Of course, I'm voting for this guy, right? Because those kind of guys are definitely going to make some changes before they go to jail.
Right. Which won't be far behind that. Yeah. Well, that's funny. It's Ross Perot, and who's the other one? There's another one that keeps popping up on the radar down there. Oh, I can't remember.
Gee.
My brain's a little foggy today. Yeah, but Ross Perot definitely is definitely the shit disturber of American. Right. Yeah. I don't think he's run in the last couple of elections. Is he dead? I don't know. He's getting up there, definitely.
Yeah, he stopped after he quit that election, which was, kind of sad because there was a lot of people going to vote for him.
Yeah.
But he backed out on that one, and then I don't think he went for another one again.
Oh, okay.
I think I know that shit disturber you're talking about, but the name is not coming to me.
Yeah, anyway, it's, it'll be interesting to see what happens, because after this is done, then we start the federal campaign in earnest, and we're going to start getting phone calls and all sorts of cool things about that, so.
Right.
I still haven't ruled out throwing my hat in the ring.
Yeah, so when are you going to run?
Yeah, we'll see. If I did it, I would run as an independent. I wouldn't, and I do it just to highlight some issues that I'm passionate about. And,
right.
Yeah.
So. The big thing I want is chickens. I've been harping on this because.
Yeah.
Why can't I have chickens in my backyard? I'm sure that's a federal issue. It's
provincial, and it's also
that's
the
right.
city. It's
the city.
Because my friend Debbie's big on the bee thing, right? So she wants bees. Calgary just did something though. Calgary just implemented something with. They're doing a pilot project, I think, with chickens.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, more and more places are doing it. I wouldn't even mind a small goat, but I've got friends in. Because of the rattlesnake work that I do, I've got friends in the city bylaw office here in Lethbridge.
Okay.
I mean, they're the ones I contract through for the city, and we've got a competition going. Me and Sherry Merchant, who works in the bylaw office, to see who gets their chickens first, when the chickens are allowed to live, within the city limits, within the residential areas.
There's more support on council than a lot of people think for urban agriculture. Yeah, I know one city councillor for sure. His neighbor has chickens.
Oh yeah.
He didn't say anything, but he knows he's got chickens because he can hear them.
Right.
Yeah. They don't he doesn't have a rooster, I don't think. So there's no cock-a-doodle-doo in the morning or whatever. But he knows there's chickens back in that yard.
There's some kind of like outdated bylaws that they need to be reviewed and. Things have changed. People's thoughts about things have changed, especially environmental, type issues. So
I had Belinda Croson on the podcast. She works at the Galt there, and she has done actually a study of sort of with the Tabor bylaw. Remember when all the hoopty law came out about that 3 months ago? A lot of people started asking her about Lethbridge bylaws, and there was all sorts of myths, and that you could shoot a Hutterite, but only on Thursday. Like that wasn't actually a bylaw, but there was a myth that you could only shoot a Hutterite on Thursday because that's when they came into town.
Yeah, it's like a target.
It's a target moving around. Yeah. But no, I said to her, that's what we need to do. Is we need to you need to get an articling student or a law student or on a summer internship or something, and their whole job is to go into collect all the bylaws,
right?
And if there's any reference to 6 guns and giving somebody a horse if they get exiled from town, that goes into the pile of strike that from the books, right? That sort of stuff. And then city council takes a look at it, and then you could actually cut them out. She said it actually happened once They actually did that, but it was almost 100 years ago that they actually did that with the bylaws, and they went from, some obscene number of bylaws down to 16 or something like that.
Yeah, that kind of stuff needs to happen for sure.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, you're doing the rattlesnake thing again.
Yeah, it's rattlesnake season again.
Yeah.
I've been for the past, this would be my third summer as the lead on the rattlesnake group in Lethbridge. We never know what to call it. We've called it various things. We called it the Lethbridge Rattlesnake Conservation Group. We've called it the Lethbridge Rattlesnake Mitigation.
Yeah.
And sometimes we call it a group, sometimes we call it a committee. Fact is, it really doesn't have a name.
Okay.
But there's a few guys in the city who work with rattlesnakes, and one person who's actually has a permit to do so. That's me.
Okay.
But
so who issues that permit? Is it
that's
the city?
Fish and Wildlife.
Oh, okay, Fish and Wildlife. Okay.
Yeah, Fish and Wildlife gives me a permit. It's actually illegal in Alberta for anybody without a permit to mess with rattlesnakes at all.
Okay.
Touch them, handle them, pick them up, be around the den sites, be around the rookeries.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't have any snake parts.
Okay.
In your freezer and this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like,
What about cowboy boots? Rattlesnake cowboy boots?
not if they're prairie rattlesnakes.
Okay.
No, it's
Okay.
it's kind of like the migratory bird thing. It's like they said, okay, we got a problem, with people killing birds and dealing with bird parts.
Yeah.
So we're gonna absolutely outlaw it. It's a little bit crazy because sometimes a rattlesnake gets hit on the road, something like that,
Yeah.
and it's in fairly good condition. Somebody probably would love to take the rattle or the skin or whatever, and people do, but it's illegal for them to do that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. How'd you get rolling with this? Like, what's?
I have been. I'm a complete naturalist, and I've been that way a fair part of my life, but even more so after being transferred into the beaver bundle, the Blackfoot spiritual system. But I've been around snakes a good portion of my life.
Okay.
When I think I first started handling snakes when I was 5 years old, and then when I was 8 years old, I saw a boa constrictor in a pet shop, and I asked my mom if I can buy one of those as a pet, little baby boa constrictor, and it was $50, and she told me, if you raise half of the price for it yourself, I'll match it, and you can buy the snake. Which meant at 8 years old, which would have been 1980, had to try to raise $25, which was more money than I'd ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she didn't imagine that I would ever raise the money. But we went home, and I set to work, neighbor to neighbor. Can I weed your yard? Can I weed your yard for $1?
Yeah.
After 25 yards, a couple of, took me a little bit. I don't even remember how long it took me, but it didn't seem to take that long for me to, might have taken a week or something, or maybe a couple weeks at most. I'd raised my $25, and I was ready to go.
Yeah.
So it was time to go buy a boa constrictor. So she had to relent, took me to the store, bought the boa constrictor. It was just a baby, just a probably what they call young of the year. This is really stupid herpetological thing where you get, baby snake is called a neonate, right? Like a newborn.
Yeah.
Just straight after it's born. Usually, like with the rattlesnakes here, they're born as you're coming into the end of summer toward the winter, very close to the time they're going to go to their hibernacula. And so they're called a neonate during that little period when you might see them for a few weeks before they are down for the winter.
Okay.
And then you don't see them again until the next summer comes around. And at that time, even though they're the same size, they haven't eaten anything all winter and stuff, and they just look like babies, you're supposed to call them young of the year. And if you continue to call them neonates, people get their hair standing up and stuff. So
Wow.
the herpetologist, this is how this works, right? So everything has politics, right?
It's true. It's true. Everything is politics. Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, so I buy this little baby boa constrictor, take it home, and evening number 1, I decide the snake needs a bath. So I fill the sink with some water, and it seemed like fine to me. But I put the snake in, and immediately the snake started like writhing on itself and twisting up, and something was terribly wrong. So I pulled the snake out and put it back in its tank, and was hoping that things would go back to normal with it. But it continued to just like twist on itself and turn on itself, and something was bad wrong, and then I went and told my parents, something's going wrong with the snake, They came in, and it wasn't long, the snake was dead.
Really?
Yeah, I had either fried it or something. I imagine it must have just been way too hot for it.
Oh.
Even though it wasn't that hot for my hands, didn't feel that bad for me. So I killed it, right? And but I had never told them. This is a secret that I'm revealing. I never even told anybody. I killed that first snake.
You owe $25 to your parents. That's the first thing that's gonna happen, man. Is you owe I knew it. They're gonna say you owe me $25.
It was
and
my
you
fault.
asked too. Yeah.
It was my fault that snake died, and that time I think I was really into Happy Days, and that was a female boa, so her name was Rosie, off of what is it? Was it Pinky? Yeah, Pinky Tuscadero, Fonzie's girlfriend, right? So, so Pinky Tuscadero died night 1, and I was, totally upset because I really worked for this snake, and I had no idea why it had freaked out so much in the water. So anyway, my mom decided to buy me another boa, but we decided to go to a different pet shop because obviously the ones from that pet shop were defective, diseased, something was wrong with them. So we went to another pet shop that had boa constrictors, and they had this one baby boa who was constantly escaping from his tank and going to sit on top of the bird cages. And
like a cat.
That's the one that I've decided. That's the one.
See, look, they're shit disturbers.
That's right. That's right. See, it's a theme.
Yeah.
So I bought him, and that one I named Chachi.
Nice.
Yeah, and Chachi stayed with me from the time I was 8 till I was almost done with high school.
Okay.
Chachi grew from, being about maybe 10 inches to where he would be draped over my neck, and his tail would be on one side and his head would be on the other, touching the ground. And he became a large boa. And leading up to me going into the military service, had to get rid of Chachi because I couldn't bring him with me. My parents didn't want him. So ended up selling him to a cop.
Oh.
But to a female cop. So, but while in that time that I had Chachi, I had several other snakes, mostly like garter snakes and things that I caught. And there was one I don't even know what kind of snake it is, to tell you the truth. There was a small red snake. I went down to Phoenix. My grandparents lived in Phoenix, so we flew down there one time. And I came home on the airplane with a fence lizard and a red snake in my pocket.
Snakes on a plane.
That's right.
Samuel Jackson's coming after you.
That's right. And a jar full of scorpions and.
They let you on the plane.
Yeah, well, this is pre 9/11, even pre snakes on a plane, right? So.
But they let you bring scorpions on the plane.
Well, I didn't advertise that I had scorpions, but I had these things in my pockets, and they never checked me. I was probably, I don't know, 13 years old or something.
Yeah.
They didn't do the things that they do now. Where you
Yeah.
get frisked and everything. And
I went through the TSA whirlybird
Oh,
there
yeah.
when I was at McCarran.
yeah,
It's a little freaky, actually. They still pat me down after that.
yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they put you through it, and then they pat you down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always the random guy who gets chosen for all that.
Everybody was going through it when I was there.
Was it?
Everybody was going through it. There wasn't a lot of people in line, so I think they probably just figured, okay, run them through and get the quota.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Huh.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, so I had a few other snakes. I had garter snakes that actually ended up having babies in captivity and stuff, and breeding in captivity, and then I raised rats in the garage, and I had probably 6 or 7 tanks full of rats.
Wow.
And the one patriarch rat, the very first rat that I started keeping like as a pet, to start breeding him.
Yeah.
That one was called Mickey Rat, and he grew pretty old and
Was he?
pretty big, and he eventually died. And me and my dad autopsied Mickey at his death, and looked like he died of lung cancer.
Really?
Yeah, probably from the fumes of living in rat houses.
I was gonna say, were you feeding them Lucky Strikes or what's?
No.
Mickey smoked.
No, but sometimes they were pretty hard to keep up with, when you got tanks full of rats, and we try to offload them, to different pet stores and that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But we just wanted a free source of chachi food, because he goes through rats, So, so that was kind of like how I got my start with snakes.
Just out of curiosity, how many rats would Chachi, what's the feeding habit of a boa constrictor?
You can give them like 1 a week, something like that.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of times they'll, most snakes will eat as much as is available because they're like programmed to get through the lean times.
Right.
And so if they're hungry and there's food available, they're gonna eat it. So you could throw, one rat after the other till he was really stuffed if you wanted to. But we might throw even one every 2 weeks or so.
Okay.
Yeah. Throw one in on him. So.
How did you catch the scorpions? I'm sorry, I dislike scorpions. Seriously. I was out in the middle of I don't know, Mojave Desert? Is that what's north of Vegas where Area 51 is? I don't remember. Anyway, the desert, whatever it was. And I was out playing around the cactuses while I was out there with Mark, and my eyes are on that ground. We saw some geckos.
Oh, yeah.
But I was watching for those bloody scorpions. I hate scorpions.
Huh.
Yeah.
The scorpions here in Lethbridge too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never seen one. Somebody I knew said they saw one climbing up one of the trees in the Cotton Blossom at the Lethbridge Lounge.
Huh. It's very possible.
Yeah.
The only ones, like, I haven't seen one myself either, but I've got a lot of friends that dig rocks in the coulees.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And they'll show me pictures of them. Because a lot of
yeah.
times when they're digging, big concretions out of the
Right.
edge of the coulee,
Yeah.
they'll pull it out, and there might be scorpions there because there's ants, right? So they're there to
Oh,
get
yeah.
the ants.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so just tweezers.
Okay.
Just pick them up by the tail with the tweezer and drop them in the jar.
Okay.
We've got scorpions.
Okay.
I think that trip we picked up a bunch of scorpions and centipedes, and then put them in alcohol or something because I knew we had just a floating jar full of. My dad and I, a floating jar full of
The scorpions.
scorpions.
I actually knew a guy he went to Afghanistan, and big sucker scorpions, like big, and they picked up 2 of them, and they put them in. There was I don't know if they made the box or if they just, if it was an old, ammo box or what it was, I don't know.
Right.
They put these 2 scorpions in the box. One, they're pissed off because there's another scorpion right there.
Right.
So they both kind of put their tails up, ready to sting the other, and then he got this lacquer and he just poured it right over top of these scorpions. So they're frozen in this attack posture when he stuck the thing on his desk at work back in Canada.
Right.
Yeah. Gosh. Yeah. I guess you get bored in Afghanistan. You play with the scorpions. So. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I grew up with snakes, and then I didn't have, anything directly that I was doing with snakes for a while, but I always, wherever I was, there were snakes in the midst. So when I was stationed in Louisiana, I would go check out the cottonmouths and all of that. When I was in Boston going to school, they've got the Blue Hills next door, and they've got a population of rattlesnakes there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, people were surprised.
Hmm.
No idea, but yeah. So, and then here, of course, we got a good population in Lethbridge.
Yeah.
So I moved here. I didn't purposely set out to find them, but as soon as I started running into the rattlesnake dens, because I do, I'm a naturalist, so I'm out in the coulee, and I try to learn every species that's here, every animal, every plant species that I can see with my naked eye, and then learn how they relate to one another, and then their phenology, like their seasonal behaviors. So as soon as I moved here, I started up doing that kind of study here, and it wasn't long before I started running into individual rattlesnakes, and then not too long after that I walked right into a den site, and then I started monitoring them at the den site, and then Canadian Geographic came out with an issue featuring this guy Reg Ernst, doing a snake project in Lethbridge, a rattlesnake project, where he's trying to promote living, coexisting with these rattlesnakes, and he had built this kind of man-made winter den, hibernacula is the official herpetological term for it. It's not a den.
You're gonna revoke your permit.
And he had built this den where he could relocate snakes to and get them to kind of lock them in for a winter, and then let them go and hope that they continue to use this den and stuff. He had this project going on, and he was doing he was pit tagging some of them and following them with radio signals and kind of monitoring their movement and this and that. So I saw that article and I was like, maybe I can get some research experience with this, some real research experience with the snakes here, some legit stuff from associating with Reg Ernst. So I gave him a call and I told him, anything you got, if you got that I can volunteer and get involved with some rattlesnake research, I'm up for it, right? And he said, well, we don't really have, right now we don't got any research projects going, we're just doing the relocations at this point. The research project we had done is finished, and doesn't look like we're going to be doing another one anytime soon, but I'll keep you in mind if we do, right? So I didn't hear from him, and a couple of years passed, and in the time of that couple of years I did run into him in the coulees once in a while, and when I run into him we kind of stop and share notes, and there's a few different biologists in town that I run into in the coulees, and we might just share what's going on.
Sure.
So he was one of them, and so he knew that I was also continuing to monitor the snakes in my way. And then one day I got a call out of the blue, Reg Ernst, and he says, I have to move to up north by Edmonton. Do you want to take over the snake program for the city? And I was like, yeah, absolutely.
So he was contracted by the city, like at RU? Is it you're contracted by the city to do this?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he was contracted by the city. He did it for about 10 years, and really raised public awareness in Lethbridge. I mean, nobody knew a lot about these snakes, or cared about them, or ever have any concern for their conservation before Reg Ernst started his program.
Okay.
So he's really just in that 10 years that he was doing it or so, he really raised a lot of conservation consciousness around the rattlesnakes in Lethbridge, and developed this program. And so he said he was going to have to leave, he's going to have to move, but he had a couple of months of summer, and in that couple of months he transferred everything to me, just trained me and gave me all of the stuff, all the equipment and stuff that goes along with it, and brought me to meet with the people that I needed to know in the city and fish and wildlife and all of this, so that I had all the connections in place that I was supposed to have.
Right. Yeah.
Transferred me. Well, basically, we took his old contracts and reworked them for me, and then even the insurance, because you have to have a pretty big liability insurance to do this.
Yeah.
So even the insurance policy,
Yeah.
basically, you just went in and got it transferred over to me. And yeah, so this will be my third year of doing the rattlesnake relocations, but that's the main crux of the job, right? Is to go whenever somebody finds a rattlesnake, encounters a rattlesnake in their backyard or in their garage, or even if it's just out on the road or whatever. There's a hotline here in the city of Lethbridge that they can call, and that hotline, we actually do have a service, but they ring directly to me. I'm the first guy on the list to be called.
Okay. Yeah.
And so 90% of the rattlesnakes calls I'll go attend to. And yeah, I just go and I pick up the snake, and I have a permit to handle the snakes and have them in my possession for a brief time. I'm only allowed to pick up the snake and curry it to the nearest known hibernaculum.
Okay. Yeah.
So it has to go back to the nearest known den site. And then I release it there, and that's that.
That's that. Okay.
That's that. So that's the main job. Now, of course, while doing this, there's all kinds of opportunities to learn things about snakes. And so the kind of guy that I am, I like to be non-intrusive in my relationships with the animals that I'm studying. I'm not the kind of guy that's going to go and collect specimens of all of them.
Yeah.
I got a camera, I can use that instead. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
So when it comes to rattlesnakes, typically how people study their movement and this and that is to pit tag them, to stick a little radio chip under their scales.
Okay.
And something that you can it's just a little magnetic thing, and you've got a tool that you can, when you come across a snake, you can put the wand over the snake and see if it's tagged, and you come up with the number, and then you know who you've got. So that's typically how people go about tagging snakes and learning anything about their movements and what they're doing and this kind of thing. And I started looking at the snakes right away and thinking, because I had previous experience with other animals too, where I recognized that even an animal that seems to look like they all look the same, like we can't tell the difference between them. You can if you really look at them close. Like say Canada geese was one of the ones that I had worked with before the rattlesnakes at Elizabeth Hall wetlands. I was trying to learn a lot about the waterfowl behavior in the summers, and so I wanted to learn individual geese, and I find that just on that little white patch on their side of their face and their cheek, every one of them has a little bit different shape pattern.
Okay.
And I got cued off to that by a Bernd Heinrich book. He's this guy up in Maine who's a really prolific nature writer.
Okay. Yeah.
He did a book called The Geese of Beaver Bog, where he was studying geese and he was using that patterns. So I started using it at the wetlands, and yeah, it works fine. You can totally identify geese. Plus, you get to know a little bit of like their personal. Every animal has a little bit of a personality to it and stuff.
Sure,
Just like dogs.
Yeah.
It's like dogs. Every dog, because we're so close to dogs, we just tell the difference between them like that. Hey. But who knows? To some other species, a dog might just look like a dog.
Right. Yeah. That thing's coming after me to eat
Right.
me. Yeah. That's all I need to know about the dog.
Yeah, that's right. But we see their personalities, and there's a really strong visual difference for us, and all of this. And certain, among these other species, you look how they behave and stuff, and you realize, between themselves, even though they all look alike to us, they certainly know the difference between each other. Right? They got like lifetime mates, and family members from long ago, and their children from several generations, and all of this. And so I started looking at rattlesnakes and say, all right, let's look at these guys and see if I can tell the difference just visually, so they never have to be pit tagged.
Okay. Right? Yeah.
So I started taking photographs of every single one that I would relocate. Close-up photographs in the bucket that I used to carry them, and then keeping a photo database, and then comparing, the photos. And the first summer that I did the work, I only had one match of all the snakes, and even that told me a lot, because when I had taken over the program, the estimate for the number of rattlesnakes in Lethbridge was around 60 snakes.
Okay.
For the whole total population.
Right. Yeah.
Something like 60, maybe as high as 80 snakes. But I think that first summer I'd gotten something like 68 snakes that I encountered in these relocations, and every single one of them was different. Okay. So I knew if those are just the ones that I'm running into in the residential areas, it's a whole lot more than 60 snakes.
Right.
In
Yeah.
The population estimates were very low.
So where you, I mean, obviously Paradise Canyon and Lethbridge, you're finding them. Where, like, are they up top too? In the...
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're especially on the west side of Lethbridge.
Yeah.
The whole thing from Cottonwood all the way to, past Bridge Drive. Okay. All of the coulee there, you get rattlesnakes.
Okay.
There's many dens all along the I think probably almost every coulee itself, there's a den, at least one. I haven't found all of them. There's a woman who did her master's degree several years back, who GPS'd several of them. We know that there's about 5 in Cottonwood Park.
Okay.
One of them seems to not be being utilized anymore. And these are all just natural dens. Mm-hmm. In Popson Park, I think there's 4 that have been located. I usually relocate snakes back to 2 of those dens that are there.
Okay.
Then in Riverstone, I know of 2 dens.
Okay.
Along that Riverstone stretch. There's a den by the University of Lethbridge, by University Hall.
Okay.
That we don't know for sure that we have the den site located there. We think we might have one, but what we do know is that there's a rookery that's been there the last few years.
What's a rookery?
A rookery is where snakes go to have their babies.
Oh, okay.
And typically, a rookery is not more than about 100 meters from a den.
Oh, okay.
Because the babies, the neonates,
mm-hmm.
have to move from that rookery to the to the hibernaculum,
right?
And so you don't want to put it too far away from that. So
okay.
the mama snakes will usually have their rookeries pretty close to the den sites.
What's a den look like? Like if they're not building a 4-level split?
No, and the snakes actually are not architects of anything, right? So I have people sometimes call me and they say, I've seen some holes on the side of my house. Are these snake holes going under my house?
Sounds like a B movie.
I get
snake that went to architecture school.
I get some very bizarre calls, man.
Do you?
Yeah, I got a call. I'll tell you. There's one person in Lethbridge. At least we think it's just one person. But between myself and the nature center, we get several calls a year from this one person, and she must have a huge phobia of snakes.
Okay. Yeah.
So over the last winter, for instance, I think in January I got a call from her, and she says, I've been bitten by a rattlesnake.
In the winter?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she calls me in January and says, I've been bitten by a rattlesnake. I tell her you should probably go to the hospital. And she said, I don't think I need to go to the hospital. This was a couple of weeks ago. And I said, all right.
I was run over by a car.
Yeah.
You better call the ambulance. No. That was 2 weeks ago. I was run over by a car. I just got home.
That's what this was
I
like.
crawled here to call you.
Yeah, that's what this was like. Like, I didn't know what kind of information she actually wanted from me, but she was reporting she'd been bitten by a rattlesnake.
Interesting.
2 weeks earlier than the call in January, so I told her, well, did you go to the hospital when you were bitten? And she says, no, I didn't even notice it till just now. And I was like, all right, what is your symptoms, right? And she says, I have the 2 fang holes on my leg.
Uh-huh.
And I said, all right, you weren't bitten by a rattlesnake. If you got bit by a rattlesnake, you would know.
You
would be in serious pain, and you would have a lot of inflammation going on. You know, it wouldn't be something that's just you're blowing it off because you got a couple little marks on your leg, right?
Yeah.
And so she says, well, then what do you think it is, a python?
Do you own any cats, man? Mr. Wigglesworth, your calico may be the chief suspect here.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Occasionally I get this kind of stuff, right? Way out there. At least a few times a year. But this one caller, this one person who phones has got the weirdest calls, for sure. But I do get several people a year that call that are very snake phobic.
Right.
And I sometimes get asked to go far out of my way to ensure that they don't have any snakes on their property, even though they've never seen one on their property.
They sense them.
Yeah, they sense them. They're worried that they might be there. They want me to come and look for the signs of the snake and this kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And so, because part of my campaign is to, build a lot of public awareness and confidence in this program and try to help conserve the rattlesnakes.
Sure.
Even when I get the weird calls, I still, go and attend to them. And I'll go to somebody's house and do a thorough look around. But I am considering starting a little bit of a side business as well, for people that are very concerned about snakes being in their yards. That I will happily do some things at the residences to not absolutely 100% snake proof them, but get them very, very snake resistant. For a fee. Things like building, snake proof fencing and these kind of things.
Gun turrets. No.
Yeah, gun turrets. Making sure that there's none of the kind of the habitat there that the snakes would be drawn toward.
So what are they drawn toward for dens?
Well, this is the thing. Yeah, this is where we were on the way to, right? Snakes are not
that was
architects.
a very fun sidetrack.
That's right. Yeah. So bizarre.
Can you keep a straight face?
I try to. There was one person who's, I probably just shouldn't even tell.
Okay.
It's too dangerous to tell. But I'll just say this, that when I got done talking to him, my wife kind of chewed me out and said, you shouldn't have laughed at him.
Oh. Oh, dear.
Because that might cause us some social issues.
Yeah. Oh, high profile, eh?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay, now I want to know. You can tell me. Sorry, everybody. The microphone's off. Yeah.
Yeah, but snakes. They're drawn to certain things. Of course, they're not architects. But they do need a hole that they can go into.
Okay.
That they can get out of the weather elements, because just like with Pinky Tuscadero, they have a really low tolerance for change in temperature.
Right. Okay.
It's a much lower tolerance than you would think.
Yeah.
I as a little kid could put my hands in the water and it's not a problem, but I put Pinky in there and she's dying. Yeah, that's it, boiled to death. So they have a real small temperature range that that they have to try to maintain. So they can't be in too hot of a sun. You know, when you get really hot days,
Yeah.
you can run around the coulee all you want. You're not going to run into a snake in the middle of the heat.
Yeah.
Yeah. When it's really blistering hot, don't worry about snakes. You're not going to encounter them.
Okay.
And the same, you know, when it's a cold and wet day, like we, you know, woke up this morning, it's raining and kind of chilly and stuff outside. It's not going to be any snakes. So they like to find a hole that they can go into in an area where they have ready access to water, where they have a rodent population that they can feed off of, and where they have some kind of a bush very near the hole that they can move into for shade, for just general light shade.
Yeah.
But also an open area next to the hole where they can bask in the sun if they want to bask in the sun. And so this is the kind of stuff that they look for, and people have those kind of setups all the time, you know, around their residences.
Right.
A lot of I've had to deal with a lot of snakes that are under people's concrete or drive pads, for instance. Right?
Yeah.
That's a nice good hole, and somebody might have a little pond in their backyard, or even just a dog's water bowl kind of a thing, and they've got some deer mice in the area or what have you, and a snake is absolutely happy in that place. A lot of times they have to use old rodent holes, hey, but it doesn't necessarily have to be like an underground burrow. If you have a good collection of like wood or something like that, scrap wood or firewood or whatever, you got a good pile. Underneath that pile will be fine for for them to be. So so a lot of times when people are moving their wood piles around and stuff in the backyard, that's when they encounter a rattlesnake and they'll get a call to go pick those up. Those are the kind of conditions that they're looking for. And so if you want to snake proof your yard, or at least make it uninviting for the snakes, first of all you got to try to limit the amount of rodents that are around. So if you got all kinds of things that would attract rodents, you got to eliminate that. Any kind of structure stuff that you have that might be used as a den, like a wood pile, lift it off the ground. Okay, put it, put a little something platform on the ground. Lift it up a little bit. They won't want to be there. Right. Yeah. Same thing with like if you have sheds or this or that they might use as an alternate site for a den. If you got holes under your drive pad, fill those holes in. Fill them in. And that's really they're looking for food, they're looking for water, they're looking for the conditions to keep their body temperature the way that it needs to be kept, and they're looking for mates, right? If they're in that age bracket where they're mating.
Explain some people I've seen on Tinder before. Wait a minute, that's a snake.
There's some interesting stuff around rattlesnakes with their mating. For instance, a lot of people don't know that rattlesnakes have 2 penises.
Lucky buggers. Okay.
Yeah, two penises.
Really?
Yep. And
where are they? Are they in the back? Or
they're at the back. Okay. They're in the tail, actually. Which is one of the ways that you can kind of judge whether you're dealing with a male or female snake with a rattlesnake. Is you look at the length of the tail behind the cloaca, which is where all the stuff comes out, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So the length of the tail behind that, if it's a longer stretch of tail, you're probably dealing with a male because he's got his penises, and they kind of invert into him.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Come out. So he's got his 2 penises up in there, and so he's got a longer tail. Female's tail would be a shorter, stubbier kind of a thing.
So females look for the longest tail, the longest rattler.
They might. One thing is for sure is they've got 2 penises and they've got forked tongues, and so is there some kind of correlation between that? I don't know.
Interesting. Okay.
But we know that that a female, she can keep semen from a male for quite a while, over a year.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
She can just retain it and then let it fertilize her eggs when
Really?
she's ready for it.
Wow.
And she might have more than one males collected, but if she does that, she'll or no, not like that. She actually can have more than one males collected. However, with the male, if he's mated with a female, he's used one of his penises to do it.
Yeah.
If he mates with another female, she might make him use the other penis.
Safe rattlesnake sex. No. I know where you've been with that.
Yeah, that's right.
It's that bitch down the block you stuck that into. I know that. I know where she's been.
That's right. Exactly. This is some of the stuff that goes on with the snake drama.
Okay, now somebody has to come up with a TV series.
I'm waiting for my reality show.
You should talk to Shaw. I bet you they do a series for you.
I need one, I think. So yeah, we have, and then the male snakes will battle it out too for over females. They'll have actual like jousting. Well, of course they don't have spears, and
right?
Stuff, but they wrestle. They kind of try to push each other over. Hey,
yeah.
Get up as high as they can and push and shove and see who's the strongest. And so people downplay the social aspects of snake life, but there's quite a bit.
Social structure to it, yeah.
Yeah, and we don't really know. We know the smallest fraction about these snakes. Even though they've been studied, we just know next to nothing still about them.
They're just elusive and tough to.
Yeah, they're elusive and they're very, they're just very hard to study too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even something like what's the population of rattlesnakes in Lethbridge, it's pretty hard to tell.
Yeah.
And then I've learned some other things from the photo database. As soon as I find a match, right? If I've picked up a snake and then I find that I pick him up again and I'm able to match cause it's the back patterns that I look for, hey? Like the variations of the back patterns.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a little bit of unique patterning, and so as soon as I match one, I'll give him a name. Okay, so I have certain snakes that I've encountered now several times.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That have names and who are well known, and I know where they hang out. And if I get a call to Canyon Terrace, which is one of the roads up in the canyons, first thing that comes in my mind is I bet that's going to be Tobias.
Sneaky assholes at it again, that Tobias. Yeah.
He just keeps coming back. He loves the houses on that street, and he just keeps coming back there. And he's a gentle giant. Tobias. Every the snakes have their own personalities too. So I don't know how many times Tobias has been picked up because he's a big snake.
How big?
He might be just a little over 3 feet, which for Lethbridge rattlesnake is big.
Okay.
In fact, Tobias would be considered, before last year, Tobias would have been considered among the largest snakes in Lethbridge.
Okay.
Last year, I encountered a snake that was giant. It was in the what the heck is that place called? That Bridgeview RV park?
Oh yeah, down. Yeah.
So they called me up and I went to pick it up, and they had already grabbed it themselves. They have a pair of tongs down there so they can deal with it quick.
Yeah.
They had put it in a big trash can and took the lid off that trash can. It's like, that's a big rattlesnake.
How big was it?
That was probably a 5-foot
Really?
rattlesnake with a body, the girth is as thick as my forearm.
Is that right? Eh?
Yeah.
How much do they weigh?
I don't know.
Not
I've
sure.
never really
Scaled
weighed
them out,
one or
yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
But that was a big rattlesnake.
Wow.
And, so I was happy to encounter it. Hey?
Sure, yeah.
And because nobody knew that a rattlesnake that big lived in Lethbridge.
Wow, that's cool.
So yeah, but Tobias is pretty big. For most rattlesnakes, the biggest you're going to encounter is about 3 feet.
Okay.
And the average one is maybe 2 feet long.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I got Tobias over there, and then on the neighboring street is called Canyon Close, and that's Two Spot Sam's territory. Two Spot Sam has this
Sounds like
distinct
mafia.
pattern with 2 spots, right? But
I'm the Don.
That's right.
CC, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And then I've got in Riverstone, well, spanning from Riverstone to the university, because these are male snakes that I have named over in Riverstone. I got Rupert and Kelsey and Bra, and all 3 of them, well, not all 3 of them, Kelsey and Bra I tend to pick them up at the university, but I know that they're from the Riverstone den because I've photographed them there.
Okay.
Even when I wasn't picking them up, when they're just coming out for the season, I photographed them at that den. So I know that they're traveling from that den to the university, and then Rupert was a rescue rattlesnake. There's sometimes I'll come into a situation where a rattlesnake is in real danger, and I've got to do something to, like, other than just being in front of a human being, which is dangerous enough because the humans go,
Mm-hmm.
the monkeys go crazy when they see a snake. So get the shovel, cut his head off.
Well.
No, people in Lethbridge are getting really good about using the hotline. I know that there's still people killing snakes,
Yeah.
but it's not nearly as many as there were before.
Okay.
So yeah, Rupert got him in Riverstone.
Yeah.
And he had been hit by something. I suspect he got hit by a dirt bike,
Oh.
well, mountain bike or
Yeah.
whatever, on the trail. And so he had his hemipenes, his penises, that's the technical name for them, by the way. Should be using that. The hemipenes
Yeah.
were pushed out, protruded, and swollen. And I'd seen that before because there was one I picked up earlier the same year, actually, by McDonald's on 3rd Ave.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So
And
they come right up into the city.
Well, they don't typically. Usually, the people who are going to encounter them are the residents that are right on the edge of the coulee.
Okay.
Your house is right on the edge. Normally, they don't come in further than that.
Yeah.
But there's the occasional oddball,
Okay.
right? So, yeah, that one was a bit of an oddball, to come all the way. Like, how the heck did it get across Scenic Drive? I have no idea. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one had its penises out and swollen too, and they had already started to get necrotic. They were kind of stinky. Okay? You'd smell them, and so me and one of the volunteers who's a retired veterinarian, we did surgery on that one and removed his penises in hope of saving his life.
Poor bugger.
But yeah, he didn't live very long. So it was just the infection was already spread.
No. Okay.
But Rupert had the same problem, and so we knew, this is a big problem for the snakes. So we contacted a actual, currently operating veterinarian in Lethbridge and asked if she would be willing to do the surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And she said yes, as long as I would hold the snake while she performed the surgery. So I did. And every time Rupert rattled, she jumped about 10 feet. But yeah, she did the surgery on him, and then he lived at my house for about the next 6-7 weeks.
Okay.
While he was recovering. And it's really hard to judge whether or not he's even still alive, because he did survive the whole time he was at my house, and but he never ate anything.
Oh. Okay.
I offered him food several times. He never ate, which isn't necessarily, untypical of a snake that's been stressed or something, or that's going toward the winter, which we were.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not totally surprising they didn't eat. But then the other sign that was a little bit disturbing was a couple of times he used the washroom, and there was a little traces of blood and stuff in it.
Oh.
So
Okay.
I thought that's that's not good. But it was actually red, which when you have kind of the same with a lot of animals and stuff. If you got red in the stool, it's not that bad. It's a lower intestinal stuff going on.
Yeah.
If it looks like, you know, if it looks kind of brown and stuff, like it's from higher up, and that's no good. That's the sign that you're in big trouble. So Rupert's was more of the red, and then it came to the time when the snakes were going back to their dens, and I had to make a decision. Do I keep him with me for the winter and see if he recovers, and maybe he won't recover and he's going to die here in this tank, or do I let him go back and be a snake for a little while in the den, and if he dies there, he dies in his sleep and he doesn't even know it, right? So I let him go.
Yeah.
Let him go back at the den. I haven't seen him since, but I'm hoping to see him again this summer. I'm always on the lookout now for Rupert.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's.
So are they aggressive when you see them, or you said Tobias was a gentle giant?
Yeah,
snake,
he really is. I don't know how many times in his life he's been picked up even before I started working this, because he's an older snake. But when I pick him up, often he doesn't rattle at all.
Okay.
Which, you know, sometimes, like even the ones that do rattle, they're not rattling aggressively.
Right.
It's just kind of a nervous twitch for them, kind of a thing. Yeah. He doesn't. Sometimes he won't rattle at all.
Really?
Put him in the bucket. You know, no problems. Get to the place where I'm gonna release him. I'll take the top off the bucket and he'll just let himself out. He knows.
He knows the drill. Yeah. We've been here before.
That's right. That's right. But you do come across the occasional one that's really upset that you're picking him up, and it's not surprising. I mean, the tool that I use to pick him up with is this kind of tong. It's like a clamp, hey?
Yeah.
It's got a mouth, so you reach in and grab it like this, and it's about this far away from you. It grabs the snake. So I'm picking him up and kind of squeezing him in one area of his body and putting him in the thing. And I got a couple of different tools. I got the classic snake hook,
right,
which actually is far less injurious.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But in a lot of the situations when I pick him up, I want to make sure I get him and they don't get away, because the people will get mad at me if I go there and I try to get the snake and it scoots under their house, and then I'm like, well, call me if you see it again. No, I gotta get that snake out of there, just to keep everybody confident in what's going on. So I use the tong, and I use the tong that's called a gentle giant because it's supposed to kind of have a more of a relaxed, it's got this rubber stuff.
Right.
It's not supposed to like actually be capable of breaking bones and that kind of thing.
Where do you grab him from? Like, do you grab him from the back or the middle? Or?
No, I kind of grab him about 2/3 of the way up.
Oh, okay.
If I can, if he's like right in a pile, because sometimes they're really coiled up.
Yeah. I
might grab just like half of his body.
Yeah.
Just lift them as a whole coiled pile up into the bucket. That's
that makes sense.
Better for them.
Yeah.
But yeah. Sometimes you do miss the mark, and if you get, the tail end or closer to the head or whatever, you take what you get and bring him to the bucket.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on the snake, some of them do get pretty riled up about being picked up, and can't blame them. But they're in the minority. Most of the snakes that I encounter are not aggressive at all, and the ones that do get aggressive when I'm picking them up.
Right. Yeah.
So if you encounter a snake out there, or in your backyard or whatever, rattlesnake, and you just keep your distance from it, you're going to have no problems with the snake. I mean, he's not going to come after you or anything like that. There's none of that kind of aggression ever with the rattlesnakes. I have had snakes approach me non-aggressively, and just slide past and that kind of thing. But the times that you're going to get bit are if you are handling the rattlesnake or touching it,
right?
Or like really, like one guy, the rattlesnake was coiled and scared, and in order to try to shield himself from the snake, he puts his foot out like that. Puts his foot right in front of the face so that he doesn't get bit, right?
Yeah.
He didn't get bit, but he was very lucky.
Wow.
Yeah, he was very lucky because that's the kind of move that's going to get you bit.
Have you been bitten?
No, not by a rattlesnake.
Mm.
I've been bitten by the bull snakes here.
Okay.
The bull snakes here are highly aggressive.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah. They try to mimic rattlesnakes.
Okay.
And so a lot of people, when they run into a bull snake, are absolutely certain it's a rattlesnake. And I get a call from the north side of town, and they're like, "There's a 6-foot rattlesnake here." I know that we got a bull snake.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the bull snakes will be really, really aggressive sometimes. There's the occasional one that's not, but for the most part, they're.
Yeah.
And again, they're not going to chase after you, but they're much more scary than the rattlesnakes to people because they rear way up, they hiss, they flame their heads and their bodies, and they hiss, and they'll strike and strike and strike. And
yeah.
So,
I was gonna say, because I knew somebody who was down on a golf course somewhere, and there was something there coiled up or sitting there, I don't know what it was, and he stuck his putter out. Sort of between him and the snake went.
Yeah.
It's probably a bull snake rather than a rattlesnake.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
Okay.
Yeah, the rattlesnakes, they don't tend to bite and strike until you're touching them.
Okay.
Yeah, they give you a lot of room.
Mm-hmm.
The only person that I know that in recent years that's been bit here was bit because she was doing gardening. Her husband was running a weed eater, so she couldn't hear what's going on around her.
Right. Yeah.
And she was weeding, and she put her hand into the place where she couldn't see. She actually grabbed the snake and it bit her.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it bit her, and so her hand swelled up. She says like a lobster's claws, just giant. So one of the things that I've done just as a precautionary measure, because if you're working with rattlesnakes, you got to assume that you're going to get bit at some point, you know. So I don't think I'm going to get through my whole life without being bit by one.
Yeah.
But I had my wedding ring cut off because I had a wedding ring that was just I couldn't get it on and off of my finger anyway.
Yeah.
Because I'd gotten married, 18 years ago, and my finger had just grown, and so I couldn't get it on and off, and I knew that if I get bit by a snake in this hand, I'm gonna lose that finger.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had the ring cut off, and I don't wear any jewelry.
Okay.
But then, at the same time, I feel so confident around them, and so unthreatened by them, that I often, I'll go to most of my snake relocations just wearing sandals.
Okay.
Open-toed, sandals, and I don't feel any threat at all doing that, because if you know a snake strike range, you can stay out of it real easy.
Okay.
Snake is not going to strike. Typically, half of its body length is about the furthest it's going to strike. So if you got a 3-foot snake, that means if you're 18 inches away from it, you're out of strike range, which is pretty close.
Yeah.
It also kind of depends on if it's a younger snake or a larger snake. A really young snake can actually catapult itself.
Oh, seriously? Okay. Yeah.
So it can strike even a little bit further than its own body length.
Okay.
And I've had snakes lunge at me like that, young snakes, on occasion. But for them, they're only maybe 15 inches long themselves or something. So again, you're not talking about a great distance you got to be away from them, even to stay out of that lunging range.
Yeah.
Larger snakes can't shoot themselves like that because they're too heavy for themselves. Right? So it's just the way it works.
It's a bitch getting old. Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Snake or human, doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so that's what I do with the snakes.
Well, that's very cool.
What they're about.
And the hospital has antivenom here, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Typically, you're not going to need it.
Okay.
They'll give it to you if you're having a really strong reaction to the bite, but the antivenom is of course made from the venom to begin with, and so a lot of people will have a stronger reaction to the antivenom than they did to the
Oh,
to the
really?
venom itself.
Okay.
Yeah, the prairie rattlers here, you know, of course it's not a fun experience to get bit. It's,
No.
from what strike victims have told me, it's extremely painful,
Yeah.
and of course you get swollen, really swollen, in whatever part of your body you get bit on.
Mm-hmm.
But this is not going to be a bite that's going to kill you. You're not going to lose fingers or anything like this, or
Yeah.
you know, you're not going to. It's not going to be, you know, flesh eating.
Right. Yeah.
The only chance it has of really killing you is if it injects right into a vein.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Typically, when they hit the venom, as soon as whatever they hit,
Yeah.
that's when the venom squirts.
Okay.
Right. So it squirts right as it's going in, and yeah, unless they actually get their fang hooked inside of a vein,
Yeah.
you're okay.
Okay.
There was one dog that died, like even with dogs of all different sizes. The only one that we know for sure was killed by a rattlesnake, like right immediately after the bite. Was treated by a vet on the west side, and that vet thinks it got the dog intravenously.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But most dogs, I've even seen the dogs myself, even like 2 hours after being bitten, they're looking pretty good.
Yeah.
They're not too swollen. They got little bit of swelling and black mark kind of a thing. If your dog gets bit, you definitely got to take him to the vet to get the swelling down and all that. That's the dog's. Another of the dog's big threats is usually when they get bit on the face, and so they got to worry about their airways closing and that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
For us, if we get bit, we're usually getting bit on
the
hands
and
or
feet.
very low on the feet. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, dogs tend to fare pretty well in the immediate, but there are a lot of stories I've heard from different people around town that says, yeah, but my dog got bit, and it still had a lot of years left, but it died, that year of sometimes their organs start shutting down and stuff, but it might be 6 or 8 months later, and they're pretty sure that, in their minds it's linked to the rattlesnakes.
Right.
And there's no way to tell whether or not, but I've heard enough stories to suggest that it's
might actually be something to it. Yeah,
it's probably something to it.
Okay.
Yeah. So, if you have dogs and you're in Lethbridge and you want to run your dogs around in the coulees, bring them to like Penequin Park, dog run in that area. That's mostly just bull snakes. You're very rare rattlesnake out that way. Don't bring them to the west side coulees and run them without a leash.
Yeah.
Okay. Even though there are dog runs on the west side, like Popson Park, I wouldn't run my dog there.
Okay.
No way.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Actually, so I had another guest on the podcast. Actually, he was in Milk River and he was doing shrooms.
Oh.
He's up on the. I don't know. I might have told you this. He was up on the stone, and all of a sudden he's on a trip. 2-3 rattlesnakes, they're just in sync, and he knows this because he actually got pictures. Like he actually has physical pictures of this. Snakes came out, and he's like, it was like a psychic connection.
Right.
He knew that the snake wasn't going to hurt him. The snake knew that he wasn't going to hurt him, and the snake was actually moving in and around his legs and not rattling, nothing, just gentle and moving around. And yeah, it's pretty freaky.
Yeah, you got to have a lot of courage to.
Yeah. Or mushrooms.
That. Yeah, or mushrooms.
Yeah.
One of my earliest childhood memories is actually of snakes. That I was sitting out in this grass. I think I was probably 5 years old because I know the place where it happened. We only lived while I was 5 years old. Yeah. And in the field back behind that place, I was sitting in the tall grass, and some snakes came, and there were 2 snakes that were kind of wrapped together like that, that symbol that you see with medicine.
Oh, the caduceus, yeah.
They were wrapped like that.
Yeah.
And they might have been mating, or they might have been two males wrestling. I don't know, but all I knew was like that was very like, it just stuck in my mind.
Formative to you.
Yeah, it's one of my very
Yeah.
first memories, and it was close range. I was just right there, and they were doing that.
Wow.
I've seen some other things. I was in East Texas one time, and I was walking down this country road, and I passed this bridge where there was a creek, and in the creek, it looked like the water moccasins were having a race, and they would be way out of the water, like at least their heads at least 12 inches off the water surface.
Wow.
And they'd be racing, one way, and then they'd turn around and they'd race the other way, and there was probably 10 snakes.
Is that right? Eh?
Yeah,
wow.
It was wild, and I see them go back and forth several times.
Huh.
And yeah, I have no idea what was going on there.
Swimming.
There's stuff that happens with the snakes that the herpetologists and snake people deny. Okay?
Oh.
I've heard like one from a person that I know, but I've also read it in other people's accounts, just of something that they've seen of a garter snake coming across a garter snake with babies, and then the garter snake will open his mouth, and the babies will all go in, and she'll take off, to safety.
Okay.
When she thinks she's safe, open her mouth, and all the babies will come back out.
And they deny that?
Yeah, they absolutely deny it, even though there's report after report after report after report of it.
Wow.
That's like a really different kind of a thing. There's other controversial issues that aren't so weird like that. Like even here in Lethbridge, we have the wandering garter snake, which garter snakes are not supposed to be constrictors, right?
Okay.
But a lot of people have seen the wandering garter snake having the behavior of a constrictor,
Oh.
eating a mouse and wrapped around
Really?
it.
Okay.
And so officially they're not considered to be, and the herpetologists tell people, what you saw was the snake holding the mouse just so he could get his head positioned right with it. But I'll tell you personally, and I have filmed it,
Okay.
the wandering garter snake is absolutely a constrictor.
Is that right, eh?
Yep.
Huh.
This exact same behavior, strikes, wraps, constricts till the mouse is dead, releases, repositions itself, and then eats the mouse. So at least the larger ones, the larger the very mature snakes,
Yeah.
they get into the constricting.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
So they're not supposed to have the muscles to be able to do it, but
You've
but I've
filmed
seen
it. You've actually. Yeah.
I've filmed it. There's other things that like people don't realize about the snakes. Like a lot of snakes are venomous, even the ones who we consider to be, like garter snakes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Garter snakes are all venomous. They all have I forget what they call that gland, but there's a gland that produces the venom, and they just carry that venom on their gums.
Oh.
And
Okay.
they've got, many little hair-like teeth, and when they bite,
Yeah.
a rodent or something, or frog or what have you,
Yeah.
it just gets that venom in it and kind of numbs them out. And,
Okay. So neurotoxin.
yeah.
Yeah.
and so the garter snakes around here even have venom, and so when you get bit by a garter snake, you do get a little bit of swelling and irritation. That you think you shouldn't come from just getting a little pinprick or
bite.
whatever.
Yeah. There is something there.
Yeah. It's nothing we have to concern ourselves with.
But it's I don't know if it's true. Daddy longleg spiders are apparently some of the most venomous spiders out there, but they can't inject
That's what I've heard.
through skin,
Yeah, that's what I've
through
heard.
human skin anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. The daddy longlegs. It's called the harvestman spider.
Mm.
But really poisonous. But
Yeah. You can't
yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So and it makes sense for them to be though, because they are like ground hunters.
Right.
They don't have a web, and they don't spin silk around
Right.
the thing. They've got to nail it and hope it dies, right? So
Yeah. No, I know. What's the hotline, Ryan, that you call? Do you know?
Yeah, I've got it on my phone. It's I wish it was something like 1-800-rattlesnake or something. It was easy to remember, but
They can get it off the city website too, right?
oh yeah, it's on the city website. 403-332-6806.
Okay, cool. Great. Well, thanks for being on the podcast again.
Yeah, it's always fun.
Appreciate it. Yeah, no, it's and this is an interesting one because this is one there's a lot of myths I think about rattlesnakes and snakes in general too. So
Right.
yeah, so it's good to.
People should check out if they want to, kind of keep up to date on what's going on with the snakes, and they want to see Tobias and Two Spot Sam and all these famous snakes and such. There's a Rattlesnakes of Lethbridge Facebook page.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I film almost all of my snake relocations.
Yeah.
And so you get to see how people react to them, and how I try to keep my cool when there's something ridiculous going on.
You inject little thought balloons into the. Really? Did that person just say that? Yeah.
Right.
Cool.
But there's always, every summer brings some new kind of snake mysteries and dramas and new lessons that we didn't know before.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fun to keep up with.
Well, that's cool. Well, check it out. Rattlesnakes of Lethbridge.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks again, Ryan, and appreciate it. And thanks everybody for tuning in. And so until next time, peace. So who's the person?